Welcome to the walkthrough for Part A of Assignment 4 in my CS253 course in the fall of 2022. First, make sure you run the grader and push the grade file to your GitLab repository. If you don't do this, then your code will not be reviewed. Let's take a look at some issues left over from the earlier implementations of previous assignments that needed to be updated for this assignment. If you take a look at the sequential streams crawler process image method, you'll need to update the call to get or download image to use the given URL as well as the download image method reference as the second parameter. And this change will be reflected in several places throughout the code. Likewise, in the parallel streams crawler process image method, you'll also need to go ahead and update your code to not just call get or download image, but instead to pass in the managed blocker download image method reference as the second parameter. So that's the change required for that. Down here, we see the computable futures crawler implementation for crawl page async. Please don't increment the depth here. That incrementation belongs in another place. This code here doesn't compile. You need to make sure you use the appropriate type of lambda expression here. So make sure you take a look at that. Also, make sure you compile your code and run the autograder because it would tell you that you had problems. And of course, when you run across problems, make sure you come to office hours or ask questions on Piazza. There's another problem here in crawl page helper. Please don't call get page async twice, but just call it one time and then go ahead and reuse the async pages variable. And then down here, you do need to increment the depth count at this point in this method in crawl page helper. Now we're ready to turn our attention to methods that are part of the assignment 4A body, which is the Rx observable crawler. First and foremost, please don't write code like this. It's hard to read. Things run off the end of the page, as you can see here. And you also can't comment each operator. Make sure you comment your code too, please. Down here in the crawl page async method, calling observable just is the wrong method. Please use the from callable method as described in the specification comments. And check out the videos and slides from class that show how to use the from callable method. And down here, of course, make sure you replace the use of a lambda expression with a method reference. Still in the Rx observable crawler, now we're taking a look at images on page links async. Something very important is missing here, so make sure you fix that. And also, you don't need to use toString here. I'm not quite sure why you're doing that because I think it's already a string, so you don't need to do that. And then something important is missing here, so make sure you deal with that. And something important is missing here, so take a look at the specification comment above to see what all is missing. Some other issues with images on page links async. Subscribe needs to be associated with the result of crawl page async rather than with flat map. So this is associating the subscribe call with flat map, but you want to make sure you do it with crawl page async. Down here, there's something important missing. Please fix that. Please make sure you use the download image async method reference here as opposed to calling get or download image. That's not going to work correctly. Down here, don't use just or flat map, but instead use from iterable and get page elements as URLs. And then down here, you're passing the wrong reference here, and you're using the wrong transforming operator. So you have to make sure you call the right transforming operator, and you also have to make sure you're passing the right method reference here. Get or download image is not the right method reference to call. And I think that would also be found if you ran the autograder. Once again, you're using the wrong factory method here. See the specification that I omitted, but it's in your code. You're using the wrong scheduler here. See the specification comments for a hint about which scheduler to use. And down here, you need to make sure that you call the get or download image method properly. In particular, you need to pass in the appropriate method reference to it as its second parameter. Its first parameter will be the URL that's being downloaded or retrieved from the cache. Here's download image async. Again, using the wrong scheduler. I'm not sure why people are using anything other than the scheduler that's described in the specification comments, but please go ahead and fix that. This code is way too complicated. You want to use compose, and within it, you want to call map not null, but you don't need to use flat map or observable just and so on and so forth. And also down here, you're not calling get or download image correctly. You have to pass it the appropriate second parameter. Download here. The final method is transform image async. And once again, the wrong scheduler is being used here. Please don't use new thread or computation. You want to use the scheduler that's described in the specification comments. So that's the end of my walkthrough of assignment 4A, frequently made mistakes. Please make sure you address these before you submit assignment 4B.